Thank you, everybody, for joining my channel. Today, we're going to be doing some TikTok trolling, and the search words will be fourth wave feminism. If you all aren't very aware, you should look it up. It's a very interesting past, very interesting history of feminism, from the first wave of suffragettes, second wave in the 60s, third wave in the 90s to the 2010s, and the fourth wave being arguably 2010 to now. Currently, we're going to just do a simple TikTok troll of typing in fourth wave feminism and seeing what pops up.
If you want to pay for dinner at a date, you're still a feminist. If you want the person taking you out to pay for dinner on a date, you're still a feminist. That's the thing about feminism. We get to decide what we want.
I think she is very smartly pointing out that if somebody wants to be a trad wife, they could be a trad wife. If somebody wants to be a CEO, they could be a CEO. That their role, whether it is traditional gender-based roles or breaking out of the norm, doesn't stop you from being a feminist or supporting feminism.
Now from the top, make it drop. That's some wet. That's some now get a.
I'm going to pause it just for a quick second because there's a lot of words and it goes by really fast and you can't read it all. We're moving past the liberation and social mobility. Now feminists demand the end of gendered norms that cause the marginalization of women in society. Gendered norms don't cause marginalization. What gendered norms do is it pigeonholes women in these specific roles, and that's what this is. There's no marginalization. Being a mother is looked highly upon. I don't believe marginalization is the right word for it. I believe the pigeonholing or the classification would probably be a better term. There's a greater focus on intersectionality and representation of groups like women with an X, I don't know what that means, of color, and trans women. There's a greater focus on intersectionality and representation of groups like women of color and trans women. And this is where modern feminism, especially the fourth wave, it happened in the third wave and they didn't listen. In the fourth wave, this is where it's already failing because Trump is attacking them on all sides, and feminism isn't a consolidated enough group that it can attack properly in numbers. It is so stretched out in all these little subgroups that all have their little ways of wanting to do things. And in doing so, their voice is split amongst a lot of different avenues. It isn't, the more groups you add doesn't create strength. If anything, it splinters the movement. And that's what's happened with the fourth wave. The fourth wave is completely splintered and it's falling apart now. In fact, even in the news today, there's a lot of feminist groups that have been trans, LGBTQ+, whatever, they're laying off people because they just don't have the support and they don't have the money anymore. People have stopped supporting it. It's because they were too thin. They weren't a powerful enough group.
I'm talking wop. That's some wet.
There's a great importance on the end of toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity doesn't exist. It is a term by some psychologists to reference a very, very small and specific aspect of some men's behavior, and it is not. Toxic masculinity cannot be added on to all men. It's a non-starter when it comes to conversation. With any knowledgeable man or even knowledgeable woman, toxic masculinity is a non-starter. And allowing boys and men to also overcome gender norms, like being able to express emotion freely. It is not the men that are responsible for other men not being able to express themselves emotionally. This is just a male trait. It's something we just don't do. And part of feminism shouldn't be trying to make a man more feminine. It should be having a man understand the female argument, the female discussion, the female view on what is happening out there. But it's not to change a man and how they emote themselves. That is biological. That is chemical. That is psychological. It's not the feminism's place to do so.
Macaroni in a pot. That's some wet.
And of course, equality and freedom of speech, like this song, that also is a non-starter. Of course, she can write this song. She can write any songs. Nobody's stopping anybody from doing it. This is almost like trying to just put that like oomph, female power on the end of it, which is, it's a non-starter. It falls on deaf ears. It's weak. It serves no purpose and should have been left down. In fact, if anything, it weakens this video because it looks petty, looks childish. Okay. Number one over with. Next one.
Fourth wave feminism is sometimes referred to as the digital wave because of how it is defined by modern technology.
That's true. That's
Fourth
true.
wave feminist core values are accountability and demilitarization of the police, ending mass incarceration, anti-discrimination protections both legally and within healthcare. The movement also supports workers' rights.
Right. I've done some extensive research on feminism and all the waves, including the fourth wave, which I'm actually getting into now because it's most relevant. I've not once seen this yet. Not this video, but these subjects. I really haven't even come across these subjects yet. Accountability and demilitarization of the police. That sounds more like Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. It doesn't sound like a feminist movement. It sounds like a black rights movement. Ending mass incarceration. Same thing. Also, that deals with minorities and with illegal immigration and just immigration in general. That's not a feminist movement. Anti-discrimination protections, both legally and within healthcare. What does that even mean? Anti-discrimination of what? Small people? People with red hair? Gingers, you know you're out there. Time has come. That is a very bland statement. It means absolutely nothing. I'm getting to a point here. The movement also supports workers' rights. What workers? Workers with only one left hand? Female workers, male workers, transsexual workers, LGBT plus workers, foreign workers. Do you see where these statements here, which I haven't even come across yet, I've come across quite a lot, it's thinning out the feminist movement. This is another example of this person, whoever wrote this video, thought that these were important in the feminist movement, that these were important for the fourth wave. And it's just thinning out the argument. It's thinning out the strength and the oomph behind it. This is why by 2029, the feminist movement, as far as the fourth wave, will probably, I'd say 2027, before the end of the Trump era, I think the feminist movement, as we know it, will have stopped. The fourth wave will be over with. It'll dwindle, like all the feminist movement has. It'll dwindle, but it won't be anywhere near as powerful as the teens, as it was in the teens. All right, next one, this one.
Reduce your expectations to zero.
When a man assumes I'm the conservative, traditional, stay-at-home wife type of hyper-feminine, when I'm actually a trad wife, when I'm actually the fourth wave feminist, borderline misandress, reclaiming the divine feminine as a form of resistance against the patriarchy type of hyper-feminine. Right? What this is a whole bunch of feminist wake words that get women into power and say, yeah, we're strong, whatever. Literally, this has said nothing. And I'll explain to you why. This is talking without communication. Because it's saying, I'll go into it, it's saying bullshit. Borderline misandrist, any feminist, any true feminist that has any woman that says they're a borderline misandrist should kick them out of the movement, should absolutely move them on. Say, no, well, can't kick them out of the movement. They say, I don't want nothing to do with you. Because misandry is misogyny on the other side. And if you do not want misogyny, you do not want misandry. Because you do not, in modern age, you do not fight fire with fire. It doesn't work. It shows that you're disingenuous, that you're willing to use the tools of the enemy when you're against the tools of the enemy. Don't be the enemy. Be better than them. That's what you think men are, a bunch of misogynists. Don't be a misandrist. It doesn't work. How is it working for men right now? Sure as hell not helping. Reclaiming the divine feminine. The divine feminine doesn't exist. It's not even a thing in real life. It is just some female wank conversation, some female wank term to make women think that they are bigger, smarter, better, more powerful than they really are. Now, the problem in feminism isn't that you aren't strong and powerful people. The problem in feminism is you're not given the opportunity to show it. You're not given a seat at the table. Divine feminine kicks you back. Believe me, it does. Because 50% of the world out there thinks divine feminine is a bunch of bullshit. Because it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not something tangible. It's not something that you can claim not only power over, but control over. It just doesn't exist. Resistance against the patriarchy. You know what the patriarchy is? The patriarchy is a group. It's not made up of men. The patriarchy is this group of powerful people in the world that control literally everything. That includes women. And they're more than happy that little women walk around and start bitching and moaning that they don't have a right to do this and that. Because the real rich, powerful women, they want you women down there, fighting for scraps. The men the same. Bezos, Zuckerberg, Musk, they're all happy with everybody interfighting at our levels. Feminism is nothing to them. They're not listening because they're already at the table and you're out in the hallway bitching and moaning. You need a seat at the table. And until you get that, until you start talking to the people at the table, this patriarchy thing is going to continue. I'm going to get into more of that in other videos. Let's do this one.
Men's rights. Men's rights to go to war and die.
Jesus Christ.
That's what she just said. That's our rights to go to war and die. Now, bear with me on this. I don't consider her like I would a normal feminist. I don't consider her a feminist. I consider her a tag-along. I consider her an emotional pox on feminism. And I'll show you why.
Yes, I don't know who these women are. You said you knew one of them, right?
Yeah, she's one of those fourth wave, super hyper masculine, I don't need a man, men ain't shit type of feminist.
There is a such thing as like radical feminism.
Feminism is radical. By its definition, it is a radical movement to change the norm from women perceived as to not having control or power or authority over their own lives and their own bodies to actually having authority, control, and power over their own lives and their own bodies and being able to do whatever they want. It's a radical concept because it hasn't really been accomplished before en masse, so feminism is radical. What they're saying about this fourth wave movement, this fourth wave feminism, it has captured so many people. These small little tiny groups we talked about earlier, it has brought so many of these small groups in there. Arguably any woman, like that one woman at the very beginning of this video that said what she said, is a feminist because it's grabbed them all. It's literally taken all of them in and said, we're willing to accept you, and it's thinned the hell out of the movement.
Feminism, fourth wave feminism, where they think like men are just worthless and women done got to the point where they don't even need a man. Even some of them even believe they don't really necessarily need men for like procreation.
This, we don't need a man. Men are worthless. Men are good for nothing. This is the fourth wave feminism that has brought Trump. I mean, y'all did it to yourselves. You literally invited Trump in because what you're saying is so just flat out apparently wrong. It's not even an argument that it's wrong. It's just stupid. And the intelligent feminists are trying to avoid this kind of conversation. They don't want this kind of conversation. This kind of conversation, as they know, is poisonous. And it is. But you get a lot of these low-level women, these uneducated, these young women, whether it be in university, not in university, whatever, they're still inexperienced and uneducated and not grown up by the slightest. They might be adults, but they're like child adults. She's like, oh, a powerful woman. That's men suck. We don't need them. We can whatever. And the other woman's agreeing with this. So they've got this agreement that's happening, this support on saying garbage like this. And it works. So they continue to say it. And men, arguably, during this fourth wave over the past 20 years or so, have just accepted it. They haven't kicked back, but now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing them kick back, and they're saying, well, what about men's rights? Everybody's like, who cares about men's rights? Oh, believe me, 50% of the world does, and more.
I think they're so much more important that they are. Like,
That's what
we
I'm
don't even
saying.
need y'all for a good nut no.
Men don't really, generally speaking, consider themselves more important than they are. I mean, they have bravado and they peacock a bit, but they know, I got to go to work. This is what I do. I go to school. This is what I do. You know, I'm at home. This is what I do. Women, they all think they're 10s. Nowadays, the younger ones especially, they all think they're 10s. They all think they should be treated like princesses or queens. And they think they're more than what they are. And by this movement is always bolstered. Any movement is always bolstered the supporters of the movement, always made them feel more powerful. Right now, you see the far right really taking over the U.S. You really see the racists coming out of the woodwork, I mean, out of the rocks that they live underneath. You see all this happening because they're being bolstered by those that are in power. And over the past 15, 20 years, when it comes to the battle of the sexes, the women have taken the lead. They have the power. The problem is they've misused it. They've thinned it out. They didn't know how to turn it into a cohesive argument that is sustainable and would be listened to by those that are sitting at the table. And this woman is a direct result of a movement that has not maintained its control, has not maintained its image and how people see it. And because it's gone out of control, this is what a lot of young people see. Half the time, this is what I see. Women say to me, you ask any woman on the street, do you need a man? They'll instantly say no. Almost instantly say no. A lot of women will. You'll rarely see a man do that.
No more.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what truly are y'all good for? Y'all aren't even building. Y'all aren't going to war. All y'all do is wear dangly earrings and paint your nails.
So how do women even get to that stage? Like, did they
mean,
just
it's-
get hurt?
Hashtag.
They didn't just get hurt. They were able to keep talking, and more women supported them, more women supported them. So they got to the point of dangerous levels, and it was toxic even for its own movement. That's what they did. Instead of communicating with the, let me come off this. Instead of women communicating with those that could instill change, they merely talked amongst themselves. And when they didn't talk to themselves, they just yelled out into the air, hoping somebody'd pick it up. They never had proper, productive, consistent, and thought through conversation, communication with those that were sitting at the table. They stayed out in the hallway and they bitch, moan, and complained to all the other women. They got all the support. Everybody's bolstering each other up in the hallway. But when they looked into the room, they saw that table and everybody sitting around it. People at the table didn't care. They were out there in the hallway bitching. It's true. If you want feminism to work, it needs to do two things. It needs to thin out its point, get yourself down to 1 to 2 topics at the most, focus your topics, and involve the men. In every single movement, if there was any change, all the changes that have happened in the movement, in the first wave, second wave, third wave, every change that has happened because they've got male buy-in. The men ran the businesses, the men ran the government. You could not have change in a feminist movement without the men involved. You better on this fifth movement, because the fifth movement ain't going to happen. It ain't now. The fourth is dying. It's going to be dead within 3 years. As we know it, it will have died out. Fifth movement must involve men. You have to get the men on board and keep it down to 1 or 2 things. That's my opinion. I think it's a damn good one. All right, you all have a great time. Thank you very much for your time, and see you on the next one.